Hey everybody, this is Keith from the lightest side of true crime, and I am chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Keith. What's up, man?
You can kind of tell, like I said, I've been involved in religion my whole life. I was a pastor, I've taught theology. I know Christianity like the back of my hand. I know when someone's just memorizing Bible verses for the sake of putting a show on for a parole board. And I wrote a book about it. I kind of let the reader decide who's fake and who's not fake. I know right away. Because it's like, do you know the big guy upstairs? Do you really know him? Or you just read a couple passages of memory? Because everybody, you have nothing to do in prison. Of course, you're going to reach out to some God, no matter what.
Everybody found God after they get caught.
Yeah, right? Of course. The story. I can be forgiven for what I do. Sure. Why not? There's a difference between somebody who truly has a faith inside of them, whatever faith that is, and somebody who's just like, yeah, I would love to be forgiven, of course, whatever it takes. Same thing with empathy, right away.
So you have a wide range of people that have come on your show, and you've done tons of interviews. What's in store for the future for you?
More of the same. It's all about what I think can benefit other people, the listeners, and it's about building a trust with people having come on, but it's really the same thing. How can I make a difference in the world? My little part. How can I help others who are struggling? Lately, it seems to be more of other people who are really struggling with urges themselves. They need help. So having people on who can help them. Again, a lot of that's private too, outside of the podcast. It's really more the same. I'm bringing people on that I think they have something to say, something beneficial for other people. And every once in a while, we'll have a guy just wants to talk about the crimes and stuff, like a good blood and gut episode, so to speak. People like to hear that too. Kind of got to make everybody happy. Or again, just bring, get information out there by having an author on there, like Kevin Weeks, out of the Irish mobster, out of Whitey Bulger's guy, Phyllis Carers, I think her last name was. She came on. She's friends with Weeks because she wrote a book about him, and with him and his wife. She was on talking about it. So sometimes just get some information out there. They're working on a project together. Hopefully have both of them on the podcast when that gets all finished up. But yeah, but anything that I think will be beneficial for everybody. You got to get the blood and gut stuff, of course, is always going to be there. But for the most part, how can this help somebody else? What's my little part? Like even the book, The Story You, the last chapter, The Story of YOU is the way I ended it. What are you doing? Or whoever's listening, how are you making this world a better place? Your little part, like, why are you here in life? Even if you're not a religious person, the answer, why are you here? Well, are you here to make the world worse or better? Whether you have friends, family, everybody can do their part to do something. Make somebody's day a little bit better. And I don't care how tough you are, how blood and guts you are, how true crime you are. You can do something good. Do something. You're here for a reason. Be that light in a dark space. That's kind of the way I look at me, what I do. Even in the darkest of prisons, I tell the people who are in prison, be a light there. I don't care. Okay, you're big bad. There's documentaries and movies made about you, but how can you help others? Even if you're never getting out, what can you do there? Like David Berkowitz isn't getting out, but he has a website that has helped thousands and thousands of people. But Tex Watson might or might not get out, but some of these guys can make a difference from in prison, and so I'm encouraging them to do that. Or if they're coming on my show, how can we make a difference together through the podcast? So it's all about positive change. That's why it's called the lighter side. It's get the blood and guts, but for the most part, it's about positive change. Do your part. Why are you here in this world? Do something good. Whether not just outside your family, make a difference. So when you leave this world, at least you have a stamp. A couple positive things. You want to be a nutcase, have fun, party. Cool. We all do. But leave a stamp. At least do a couple things. Make a difference in this world, even if it's a tiny little thing. Do something positive, and you make a difference. And then people notice. People notice, if you're doing good things. Sometimes the FBI notices. I got that call before too. I came on one time, just a quick story. I have a video camera. I got cameras all over the house. And I'm like, who the hell's that? I'm looking at on my phone, and the alarm went off. And all I saw is somebody put look like a card on my between my door. I come home, FBI. I'm thinking of everything I've done since I'm like 18 years old. I've never been a model citizen my whole life. Earlier on, there's some shit. Did they catch me on that? I'm trying to think of all the things that I don't think the FBI would care about that one, right? So everything, I'm going crazy until I get home. Finally get home, FBI called the number. Yeah, we want to talk to you. Didn't tell me what. I'm like, man, well, I don't know what's going on. Come to my house. Apparently, I wrote the Boston bomber. I wrote him a letter in prison. The guy with the crazy long first and last name, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
And that rose flags. I've talked to Robert Salome, the World Trade Bomber, part of that. I've talked to numerous people. I'm trying to think, but that was the one. That was the one I got it, and I kind of laminate the card as my FBI card. I had to laminate that. I had it in the truck. I didn't even know I had it up here. I had it in the truck. And the funny thing was, first was guy and a girl. Then the main girl came. I guess she was the boss, and brought another girl with her. Both beautiful women. They came in. It's like we looked you online. I guess they knew me right away. We know you're not a bomber or a terrorist, but we saw your books online. Saw your shows. We know what you're doing. And but we have to come. We have to ask you the question: are you planning any terrorist attacks? And no, I'm not planning it. Okay, we're past that now. The one girl was a huge true crime fan. They spent like an hour in my house. They were more fascinated with BTK more than anything else because they didn't think because of the prison he was in, no one's allowed to write him in there. I write him. I got 50 letters right here. The whole book of artwork from BTK. They couldn't fathom the fact that, that's a federal bubble. I'm going to tell you, I talked to them all the time. Well, all the time, to show them the letters that I had. Yeah. They're huge. One was a huge true crime fan. We always spent an hour just walking around my house, looking at all the artwork and everything else. But you do it long enough, you'll get the FBI knocking on your door. That's for sure. Yeah. But it does. Everybody thinks I'm nuts until you really get to know me. It makes dating a little tricky when I'm single. You put that on there because they'll Google search you real quick. Oh, I forget about that guy. He talks to serial killers. But I think from a distance, a lot of articles. I was on Fox News article just the other day about Brian Kohlberger interviewed me about that. But once people get to know me and realize why I do what I do, they're more understanding. Because from a distance, a guy has serial killers on the show. I'm a lunatic. Yeah, probably a little bit of that, but they see what the reasoning and my motivation behind everything. Okay, at least I might not agree with it, but okay, at least I get what the guy's trying to do.
What about school shooters? Have you ever interviewed a school shooter?
Oh yeah, one of the first, Eric Houston out of California. It's funny because when Columbine happened, not too long after him, that was when it really started, making waves and everything. They thought he was behind it because no one knew school shooters back then. Because they thought he knew it, so they kept hounding him. You know something. You started this. You planned this. What are you talking about? I had no idea about that. But I've known Eric for years. I has been on a podcast, but I've been friendly with him. I've probably at least 300 pieces of artwork from Eric Houston. But it was just a dumb mistake when he was younger. He's just lost to the world. Didn't want to live, and just acted out, lashed out. Gave him that one failing grade. His life was already going down a tube. His mother was giving him a hard time all the time. He just snapped, basically. Obviously completely remorseful. But I've had people on the show like Dr. Scott Bond, one of the world's leading criminologists, who really study all this stuff, to where, and he asked him, why we don't see serial killers anymore. Very few. One, because they're catching them right away, but they start young. Where are these school shooters now? I think that's where it changed because we see so many more school shooters. Are these just baby serial killers? We're just catching them that young, or it's a trendy thing to do. Oh, I want to kill somebody. I'll shoot up a school. So it's weird how technology, like the 70s and 80s were like the heyday and the golden era for serial killers. We didn't have the DNA sample. We didn't have the technology, the cameras, cell phones everywhere to catch these people. Now we do. Now we have more people like, John Douglas and myself bringing to awareness, hey, this is how they think. This is what they were doing. So now we have the police and the FBI, and the profiles are way more advanced in their technology and their mindset of how to catch them quickly. Not always. There's still some, that are out there.
Suspecting that there's one in Connecticut. Matter of fact, right around
that New England area. Yep, exactly. And the police, it's funny because everybody asked me about that. And because all the police like, no. Well, of course they're going to say no. They're not going to freak the public out. But yeah. There's pretty sure there's a cat up in that New England area running around. But they're there. You can have psychopathy, and people think, oh, how many psychopaths are out there? Well, thousands and thousands of psychopaths out there. It doesn't mean they're going to kill anybody. They don't have the ability to feel fear or empathy, but they might be like the Donald Trumps of the world. They can rise to the top of the corporate ladder, to the top of the corporate ladder, and not care who they step on. They don't feel empathy. They don't have fear. Now, for them to have any feeling at all, now some will go murder if they have, some other issues, but they're the guys who do race cars, jump off cliffs. They're the guys in the bomb squad. They don't feel fear. They don't have that ability. They can handle, a snake or a scorpions, those wild animals, and those reptiles and things like that. Jump out of planes, skydivers. They'll do that kind of stuff. They don't feel fear. They're psychopaths, but They don't have the urge to kill. That's usually mixed in with childhood abuse and trauma. It's not, you're not born that way. There's a lot of mixed things. You can be born with brain abnormality. Doesn't mean you're going to kill. Just means you don't have the ability to feel empathy and fear and those type of things. But they're all over, you know.
I don't know if it's true, but I hear that there's over 100 long-haul truck drivers that have killed in the past that are on our roads today and that are still actively doing it across the country at one time.
The hardest ones to catch. They're hardest ones to catch. You know, from Bruce Mendenhall. I've known him for a little bit. I've talked to him in a while, though. But there's a lot of long-haul truck drivers because how do you pinpoint them? You know, I mean, nowadays it's a little trickier because they're electronically logged in. You can get timestamps. It's not all written by hand log anymore. We can kind of fudge it like Keith. You fudged a little bit of it. But now the little bit more electronically tracked, so it's a little trickier to get away with it. But it's the easiest way. You know, you're all over the country.
Say someone does it in Texas and they drive over to California, does it there, and then drive to Rhode Island. Who's to say anything unless they have like positive evidence about what they did, right?
Exactly. And that's it. Just because your truck was in the area doesn't mean you did it. You know, especially if they can't find the body. But yeah, it makes it a little bit easier for them. But if you're doing one spot only, you'll get caught obviously a little quicker than you're all over the nation. Yeah. It makes it a hell of a lot more difficult to track for sure.
So where can people find your podcasts?
Pretty much everywhere. Then we just Google The Lighter Side of True Crime with Keith Rovere. It's Rovere. It'll pop up. You know, Spotify, Apple Music, all the popular ones. Same with social media. Just put either Keith Rovere or Lighter Side of True Crime. It'll pop up somewhere.
I appreciate you, man. And go check out his podcast. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we go?
No, everybody just check out The Lighter Side of True Crime, and it's all good.
Definitely, man. Thank you.
You got it, brother. Thank you. If
you like this show, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like this show, too bad. Start your own podcast. Peace.
Hey, welcome to The Lighter Side of True Crime with Kai the Hatcher-wielding Hitchhiker and Keith Rovere. Smash, smash, smash.